Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Bonnie. This is episode 169, and we argue over whether The Wild Robot was too much of a kids movie. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back. It's Confidently Wrong. I don't even know what episode this is. 169, maybe?
160.
1,572.
We are.
This is
we are,
169.
We are deep into it. Welcome back. Hello, gentlemen.
Ew,
It's
169 and deep into it.
Stop.
That's it's not episode 69, Brian. Let's talk about, your middle school humor here.
There's a one in there, and there's three of us. So
Okay. Sounds good. There is a very gloomy outlook outside here in Austin, Texas, but we're full of sunshine here on the pod. Sav, we actually haven't got a full view of your t-shirt. What is it? An animal? Like, what is going on here? Is this are you on theme?
oh, it's his giraffe
Oh,
shirt.
y'all see me with his giraffe shirt. This is like
Oh,
a
it's the
60s
giraffe shirt.
classic.
See?
It's the long neck on the long neck.
Yeah, this is a Savon
tall
classic.
The tall guy on the tall guy. Well, that's great because we're going to talk in this episode about The Wild Robot, which doesn't feature giraffes, but features a ton of different animals, which are all personified and can speak and be lovely. So this is a little
Would
bit
this movie have been better if Raj dropped in on the Serengeti? Just asking.
Ooh.
I don't know.
I mean, then you would just change the fox character to a hyena character or one of those kind of like African dogs, and then, and then raise a lion. Or raise a, what else could you raise? A gazelle? Nah, that wouldn't be as interesting.
Giraffe. What if there's a giraffe?
You could raise a giraffe. That's true.
Yeah, having to raise a baby
Elephant?
that's just a giant.
You could raise a
Same.
baby elephant. That could be. All right.
We'll
So,
get to that.
That'll be part 2. So we're diving into The Wild Robot, which hit theaters last month, and or maybe at the end of September actually, and it got kind of my attention because it's got a huge cast of pretty heavy hitters. Starring and kind of center stage here was Lupita Nyong'o, who's famous for all kinds of different projects, including like what is she in Black Panther and. What was her other big movie? She's in Star Wars as kind of a side character as
Us.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, she's
Wait, Lupita, she's in Star Wars?
she plays the lady with the glasses in the area, and
She's the voice.
yeah, she's the voice.
Oh, the voice. Oh, okay. I was like, what are you talking about? I was so confused.
Is
Oh,
her
yeah,
name
yeah,
Roz
yeah.
in that one too? That can't be right.
Let's just say yes.
Is it?
Yes. She's consistently
no,
a robot named Roz.
No, it's Maz.
Oh, no, she's not a robot.
Oh yeah,
Maz.
Maz Kanata. Right?
Maz with an M, yes.
Yeah,
Maz.
She's Maz and Roz?
Maz and
oh
Roz.
My God. Next, she's going to be Foz, and then
Or maybe she'll be the new Oz in Penguin.
Oh,
Oh.
the
Recast.
Redux.
Maybe I could see her with a waddle.
I'd watch it.
that'd be
Maybe.
weird. Maybe. So we jump into this movie. It's actually based on a trilogy of books, which I had no idea about them and have zero context for them. But I just know that when you buy it on Apple TV Plus, it says based on this trilogy of books. Did you know anything else about this series going in, Sav?
Nope.
Nice, Brian.
I only knew the trailer. I think the other notable thing is that this has a very high critical score, right? It's like 85%.
What's
on
the Metacritic?
Critic.
Is that it? It's 85.
85%. And for this fall, like that is probably one of the top scores, right? Like very, very few movies are hitting that mark. So another notable reason for what piqued my interest, at least.
Yeah, and I've talked to people who have seen it, and they've all seemed to universally love it. I mean, it hasn't been that many people, but I have talked to a few
You
people.
know, there was Kaya, there was Eliza.
They did not watch this
Jen.
movie with me. I watched it on my own as my minimal free time, trying to fit this in and Agatha in. And basketball, and baseball. Oh my god, watching lots of baseball lately, which is now over.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Yeah. Now I know why you lack time.
yeah, I'm like, why are you watching baseball on purpose? It's called America's pastime. You don't have time to pass. Like,
it's pastime because it's over. It's like in the past.
Well, as you may know, if you are mildly following, sports or baseball, it was actually a really good kind of playoff run for the Dodgers, which I nominally
What did he do?
LA Sports. Oh man, LA Sports. I love that for y'all.
And it's been frustrating. I'm not a Dodgers fan, so I'm not like super into this or whatever. But they've been to the World Series several times, and whenever they make it to the playoffs, I'll watch most of their games. And they just come up short. Their pitching lets them down or whatever. And and this year, for whatever reason, they just kind of really got hot at the end of the season, and then their batters all got hot at the end of the season, and they still didn't have super pitching, but they had enough to make it through, and so they end up winning, and a ridiculous grand slam walk-off home run in game 1 of the World Series, and then in the last game of the World Series they were down 5-0. And it looked hopeless. I actually turned it off. I was like, let me just go watch some Lakers for now, which also that game was terrible. They're playing the Cavs and just got run off the floor. So I was like, well, that didn't work.
Savon waking up when he's done.
And then my sister texts me and says they've turned this turned around. I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, they're caught up. It's 5-5. I'm like, how did this happen in like 10 minutes? And it turns out that they just had one crazy inning where they just scored one run at a time and caught back up. And then I watched the rest of the game, and it was cool, and they clinched it. So congratulations to Dodger fans out there. I'm not necessarily one of them, but it was fun to be along for the ride.
Cool story, bro.
LA Sports.
Hey,
talk about the Rams.
You can hate on you could hate on baseball, but it was fun.
I will.
Yeah.
It's very easy to hate on.
The strategy, all the like gamesmanship, the moves you got to make. There's a lot of strategicness.
Brian, you were talking about me sleeping. So if I really need to knock out, I need a sleep aid. I could put on some baseball and out. Yeah, knock me out
Haters.
like some Rubitussin.
They just have Wes talk about it, man.
If you were falling
asleep, night on us.
If you were falling asleep during the World Series, you got something wrong. That was
Curry of putting us to bed.
That was some nail biting stuff going on there.
And you don't even talk about the cool teams. You talk about either the boring sport. You either talk about the boring sport that has a good team or the fun sport that has a boring team. I'm talking about the Dodgers and Lakers, respectively, to be
haters.
Clear.
You're just mad.
Can you talk about the good teams for a good sport? Oh boy, here comes Wes with his young Republican sports rhetoric. I would simply not be poor.
The Dodgers do cheat. They just spent $1 gazillion on their roster.
Just admitted to people cheating.
Oh yeah,
man. What movie? Man, let's talk about this movie. Let's talk about something that the people like.
The people.
Dodgers.
So Wild Robot, and so now
there are no people.
we got it.
Right.
We got into half of the movie I saw.
We'll get into spoilers for sure at this point. So if you haven't seen it and you want to go check it out, you can rent it for $1 gazillion on Amazon or Apple TV Plus or wherever you can do the rental of movies, or I'm sure it'll be on streaming in a few months. So
let's give people a real number. Don't say $1 gazillion. Give people a real number.
It's $25 to rent it. It's $30 to own it. So I decided, since you only get it for 2 days if you rent it, but you can keep it for as long as that service exists. If you buy it, I just bought it and I spent the extra $5. So now I own it. And maybe Kaya and Eliza will watch it one day.
So can I tell you guys now why I only watched half the movie? And these guys were debating whether I watched the first half or the second half. It's kind of a funny argument.
I was curious of what parts can I involve you in the conversation on?
The first question was, did you watch the first half or the second half? And I was like, in what world are you just watching the second half of a movie? And then I was like, I guess there could be some reasons.
Well, maybe I bought a ticket to a better movie and then I just hopped into the theater
at the end.
Afterwards, do a little AMC hopping.
Yeah, no. Tell us how this ended up happening where you only watched about half the movie.
Well, for one thing, I know just how exorbitant the rental price is because I didn't make it to the theater like I thought I would. Like last time we talked, I was like, "Oh yeah, for sure, I'm gonna go see it in the theater." Like, you
Talking all that shit.
plebeians, like, come on. And I had different ideas. And I was like, I don't want to go watch a 10 p.m. movie.
It's a little late.
And I was like, oh, actually, it's available to rent. Let's just do that. And then we saw like the rental price, like, oh my God, $25 to rent this thing. But it's still cheaper than going out to the movies. Yeah. So we rented on a Saturday night, last Saturday night, we started watching it. And man, nighttime, late night for a kid's movie.
Oh, you fell asleep.
Let's get it on.
Don't make it deep. You fell asleep.
Woo. Oh, I thought you meant you were like, oh, we got other things we got to do right now.
Well, that's why I was sleepy. No, come on. I'm married 6 years. You think we do that? No. But it was fine. It was fine. I start dozing off midway through. We decide to cut it there, and we'll pick it up later. Yep. We'll come back to it. But when we decided to come back to it, well, it was like, oh, during the week, it was like, oh, what are we gonna watch? Should we watch Wild Robot? No, let's catch up on The Penguin. Should we watch Wild Robot? Oh no! Let's watch the end of Agatha.
Oh no, it expired.
Oh no! Should we watch it? No! It's Halloween. We got to go out. We're going out. And then we went to watch it last night. The second half, the rental was expired. Oh my God! Why do they put that limit on it? It says you can rent it. You have 30 days to watch it.
Yeah, but
then there's another
hours.
Caveat. Yeah, 48 hours after you start. Like, what the hell, man? Come on. Is it 30 days? Is it 48 hours? Pick one.
It's not even
is it like
fine
a bottle
print.
of ketchup or salsa where you open it and it's like it's good, but once you open it, the timer starts.
Yep.
Put that joint in the fridge. You got
this is a digital product. It should not be expiring like that.
This is not fine print, by the way. It literally says there, like, you have 48 hours to watch this movie.
For $25, you have 48 hours.
It's a movie still in theaters. So, and I told you, I was like, this is really expensive. And you laughed at me. You were like, yeah, but think about your time.
It's still a better value. And it's good for your time, right? Yeah. I didn't waste time trekking out to the theater and making a whole night of it.
That's what I did.
It was a $25 45-minute movie and a nap.
All right, so
I have no idea what happens in the back half of this movie.
You can talk about the beginning part, which is also quite endearing.
Which clearly was very riveting.
All the good shit happens in the back half.
A lot of good stuff.
Not all the good shit, but good shit happens all throughout.
I thought there was good stuff. I think Brian can talk about it, but apparently he wasn't into it. So we'll see where he lands on this. So
you weren't into it?
What's up?
I wasn't into it. Sorry. It wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't
Brian
what I was expecting.
Has become the new Wes.
I'm in the hot seat.
Target locked in. I'm about to be on your ass.
You gotta switch up your facial recognition now. It's me, not Wes. By the way, we fooled some airport technology, right, Wes? When we were in Detroit,
we did.
When we were in Detroit, there's like this facial recognition thing that can give you personalized like air terminal gate data. Right?
Yeah, I peep those when you walk through, and then the big screen thing will show you.
Yeah, and only you can see it. Only you can see it. Right? It's about your face, and only you can see the board. There might be other people staring at the board, but they don't see what you their see. Information, right? So me and Wes went in at the same time, and then we like crossed paths so that we were one right in front of the other, I think. We were trying
to see like if we could get really close, like we put our heads together like this close together, if it would show us both
cheek to cheek. Yeah. And then I think we overlapped at some point.
And then it switched us, and then I started seeing Brian's information. And
I saw Wes's.
We hacked it.
And we Freaky Friday'd. Surprise! It's been Wes all along over here.
That was more wholesome than I expected. I thought that was going to go a different direction. I thought this was about to be some racist facial recognition tech nonsense.
I mean, it might have been
where it's all just trained off white guys. So anyone
we didn't do a control test. Like if I had tried this with you, Savon, maybe we couldn't fool it. Maybe not.
Like, I'm gonna go with some of my black friends,
but I squinted enough, so.
We don't need white racism. We already have enough Asian racism. It's fine.
It's cool. It's cool. Y'all could cook amongst each other. I'm not. All right.
We were just smiling.
Anyways, wow. Wild Robot.
So Savon wanted me to talk a little bit about, like, well, as a parent, and this movie deals a lot with parenting themes, and it's a kind of a kids movie. What did I think about it? And I love kids movies. Like some of my favorite movies are like Wall-E and Monsters Inc. Like I'll put them up there against any number of movies that are for adults or geared towards adults, as still like great pieces of movie making. And so, like, what did I think about this movie? I thought it was like really good. It was not what I expected. It was kind of like Brian said, based on the cast and everything. I thought maybe they were gonna kind of go in a little bit more of a different direction. Kind of, I don't know if it'd be like iRobot-y, but sort of that. But it ended up being just way more actually a straightforward, like, talking animal fun movie dealing with like growing up and parenting and the difficulties of all of that, and then making friends and things like that, fitting in and finding your place in the world. So how did I feel about it? I think overall I really enjoyed it. I thought the acting was really good. The story was like interesting, at a lot of different points. Cool stuff was happening. It's certainly a lot of the action sequences and things were things that you hadn't necessarily seen in animation, or maybe you haven't seen it that often. It didn't feel, except like sort of the main trope of the out of place parent, adopting a kid. That was obviously a little bit more straightforward and not, but otherwise it was, I thought, in some ways quite, inventive, and also not, right? At the same time, you're pulling in a lot of things we've seen before, like from Zootopia and Iron Giant, and it really felt like it was quite a love letter to these classic animated movies. Especially I think there's a lot of Iron Giant like influence. I haven't seen that in a long time, but you could get that vibe from it, right?
Absolutely.
That was going on.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. Overall, I really liked it. I think a lot of people would enjoy it. The people I've talked to have enjoyed it. And so, Brian, I'm surprised you didn't like it. I thought this would have been like actually something you really did appreciate, but maybe because we expected something different, maybe you were just kind of like, I would prefer like the possibilities here maybe could have been a little bit greater than where they ended up going with it. But I thought where they did go with it, I still really liked and really enjoyed the characters and learning about them and seeing how they went.
I'm surprised you reference Wall-E and the Iron Giant, because that is what I wanted. That is what I was expecting out of this, right? And those, to me, those are not necessarily children's movies. Those are movies. They're kind of movies made for adults that children can watch.
Yeah,
and I think
agree.
that is a key difference here. And what I realized watching The Wild Robot, at least the first 45 minutes, was that this is a children's movie made for children. It is for sure not a Pixar movie in those first 45 minutes.
I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe in the first 45, but I don't know if I agree with that take.
I sort of agree with that.
With the talking animals, as soon as the talking animals happened, I was like, we're going into that territory.
Yeah. Here's my case of why, obviously it's still a children's movie, but like I still felt like this movie was made heavily with adults in mind. One, this is a movie about parenting, not about kids and their parents. Like, I think the focus of the narrative is more about Roz than about Bright Bill. Not to say that Bright Bill isn't a major character, but this is about Roz's journey as a parent who feels ill-fitted and ill-suited for the job.
Who's for the viewers or listeners who haven't seen it? Who's Bright Bill?
Sorry, Bright Bill is the premise of the movie. Sorry, the premise of this movie is that there's this robot Roz that's basically a helper servant bot, ends up stranded on an island, and then her programming, which is to assist and take care of things, kicks in, or she's trying to make it work. through an accident, she ends up adopting underdeveloped Gosling, who becomes Brightbill, who becomes like her son. And she raises him. He imprints on her. And the premise of the movie is it's this runt of the litter goose being raised by a robot who
doesn't know how to be a goose.
Who doesn't know how to be a goose or be a parent.
Yeah.
And then it's about that parenting
and then
journey.
He starts talking like a robot.
Yeah.
He did do that.
But I'm not trying to say this wasn't like a kid's movie, but I think this movie was made with adults in mind. There is a surprising amount of death in this movie. And they don't sugarcoat it in like an almost circle of life type of way, especially in the back half, Wes. There's that goose who's the leader who gets shot out the air. Yep. When they're even trying to save the island from the snowstorm, like they establish several animals just froze to death.
Yep.
And they like don't really sugarcoat that. And the beginning of the movie is about the mama and the nest getting killed and destroyed. I felt like those things, along with the focus of the narrative being more about the parent, made me feel like, yes, this is a kid's movie, but there's a lot of themes in here that adults can latch on to. Like even the joke with the possum mama, all the parenting jokes. Like there were a lot of parent jokes that are not for the kids. Like the mom's like, oh, I have 6 children. Or even the robot saying, I've been violated all these different ways. Like, or it's like, I have a kid. Like to me, those moments made it feel like it's the adults were very, I don't know. I think a movie about the parent over the kid to me immediately is meant to be a story that adults are more relatable to, because I don't think kids are watching movies about parents and like that's kids I just think are too young and don't have the life context to watch a movie about parents and be like, oh man, I really connected to that, because they just haven't lived through it or been around it. That's why I
actually think you're absolutely right, and that the content of the movie is a little more consciously geared towards an all ages, maybe even adult thing, right? Like it is more the parents' perspective. I think tonally though, you have the kids movie tropes coming in.
Absolutely.
And absolutely. I think that's where the movie really fell off for me, was that those two things clashed so much, and that tonally it did not match what was actually happening, which is that Roz killed the Gosling's family, right? And like the possum is joking about, oh, one of her kids just died. And like what? But you're doing it as like a Disney style cartoon family joke. That was a little too all over the place. I thought those things did not work together. Whereas, when you have something like
it comes
Wally,
back, it
right?
survives.
Like those, actually, oh, surprise, the kid's not actually dead. Mom doesn't give a shit either way.
She's over it, bro. She is over it.
Oh no.
I just felt like the movie felt off, basically.
I think your opinion might shift in the second half, because and Weston, if you disagree, I think the first half
if I
is
could
a
make
lot
it
of,
to the second half.
I know. Well, I think the second half of the movie gets a lot more emotionally heavy and feels like less of a kid's movie. Like obviously it has its kids movie moment, especially the big battle with all the animals and shit. But like, there's other moments within that I'm like, oh, this. Honestly, like this is what I'll say, Brian. Walking out of the theater, my first feeling was this feels like an Iron Giant type movie for a different generation. Not a one-to-one exactly the same, but I thought it was a very deep, emotionally compelling story that had a lot of like heartstring, heart pull moments, and I really want to talk about the themes of this movie, because that's where I had a lot of really strong opinions. Where that's what really made this movie go from solid to pushing, like from being an averageist movie to being pushed over the edge. But
so there are a lot of themes in this movie. They're all kind of centered around family, around love, around belonging, mostly around belonging, right? But but obviously, like there's this aspect of love and parenting and family that's throughout, and that's how they contextualize like whether you belong, in not. Sav, what kind of stuck out to you then about those themes?
So I think, well, one, I love the theme of kindness, especially at the end of the movie. They drive this home. Kindness is a survival trait. I think sometimes, especially in our society, we have this dog eat dog. You got to do whatever to step over whoever to get on top. And the movie really leaned into the idea of, hey, man, if we all work together it's not just out of kindness. Like, we all have a net benefit from this. And
so you're a socialist, bro.
Sure, why not?
Get out of
But
here.
like, I mean, I pay taxes and I pay into Social Security, so damn right I'm a socialist if that's the case. They're taking my damn money. So
I don't think you know what socialism is.
But the
terrible.
emphasis on kindness, I like that. Oh my Lord, I can't wait this election to get this brain rot off everybody's stuff. But no, I like the theme of kindness being a virtue, being a survival thing. I think in general, that's something I don't feel like we instill that value in kids enough. Of like, hey man, we're a social species. Everything we have is in part because of collaboration, working together.
You should hear Savon playing video games. He is not a socialist during video games.
But yeah, Bull Dinky. That's just a lie. I'm not even gonna let you besmirch my name.
You're
like
a Bull Dinky?
Bull Dinky. I'm calling Bull male bovine excrement, I think is what they say in the movie. But there's some of the other things I think are easier to touch on. Wes, this is one I wanted to ask you about, because maybe I'm off, but I think I'm right, but I don't know. I liked, and this is what really made this movie go from average fish out of water, kid can't get along, other people's stuff that's kind of not the most, you've seen that before.
Yeah.
I felt like there were moments where Bright Bill was almost like spectrum development. I mean, he definitely has a developmental disability, because he's literally, they established he's a runt and that he would have died had the events in the beginning of the movie not happened. I think they made that very clear. But even to him being raised by a robot, being quirky, being really smart, and he leverages that in the movie and being different, but like, it almost gave me the vibe of like a parent having to raise a child who's maybe on the spectrum or has some type of condition that stops them from bonding well with others. And then how do you balance that with being a parent, setting your kid up for success, being hands-on versus hands-off? Like, I really like the execution of that theme. And again, maybe I'm reading into that wrong of how I viewed some of Bright Bill, but a character who was raised by not his people, has these quirks, has lots of unique talents, but also has all these other things. Like, that felt like, especially for a movie that I think is, the narrative is very parent focused, this feels what it is like to have a child who's behind. And that can manifest different ways. Maybe your child's dyslexic. Maybe your child is small for their age. You know, maybe they just had an accident or injury. It's a bunch of that, but that felt, I really like that part of the movie, because you can consistently see the conflict that Roz has, granted as a robot. And even me, from my time working in education, I can still relate a little bit to the idea of, how do I empower kids? How do I support them? But how do I let them do their own thing? And how do I let them, you know, kind of like have a little bit of healthy struggle of, hey man, some stuff you got to figure out on your own, and I can't always be there for you. But that was probably my favorite part of the movie. Bright Bill trying to find community with geese, having those robot quirks, being smart as hell, but just not being recognized for it. And yeah, I don't know. That was probably my favorite theme of the movie, is the parent trying to figure out, how do I raise a child for a world that is cruel to them for things outside of their control.
Brian, did you kind of sense that undertone? Because it wasn't overt.
I mean, yeah, I definitely saw. I can see your interpretation of that coming out. Like, for sure, Bright Bill, you know, is sort of, yeah, maybe is representative of a kind of like a neurodivergent kind of sensibility or whatever. Yeah, because he's raised by a robot.
Yeah, he struggles with social cues. He struggles with being able to relate to others. He's friendly and has good intentions, but because of how he just outwardly expresses himself, because of, again, things beyond his control, it's a pain point, and he has to navigate that. And what makes it hard is that the mama isn't even able to help him, because she has her own different struggle of being an adoptive parent who didn't sign up for this shit. Just to keep it a bug.
Yeah, and just trying to navigate it.
Well, she didn't have the programming, right? She did sign up for it. She just didn't have the programming.
If you sort of extrapolate that, you could kind of say like, oh yeah, that's a position most parents are put into. Right?
Yeah,
they don't necessarily know how to parent, and they're trying to figure out the programming as they're doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that's probably more salient in terms of what they were going for. I'm kind of with Brian Sav. I didn't necessarily pick up on like that they were going for that on purpose. But
it could just be an analogy you can draw, but like,
yeah,
I don't think it was a heavy, hard one, but I was like, oh.
I mean, I think definitely right. Like, they set him up as an underdog through those things. He's got some physical limitations. he has some social limitations, and so I think you're free to sort of paint a picture of, oh yeah, like, I mean, this is an underdog, this is like a situation where he's got some challenges, and that's something that a lot of people can relate to in a lot of different communities and setups and things. So I definitely think you could make the argument that like that was partly what they were going for. I think the probably the one that I think they were more going for was just like this sort of duality nature of being adopted or of being sort of in different worlds, right? And how you sort of navigate that, right? So
absolutely,
he's got a certain background and cultural upbringing that is slightly different than the other
extremely
geese,
different,
right?
They outright reject him and bully him.
Yeah, in that community. So he wasn't accepted. He's got to be picked up by a different parent figure who is can only teach him what she knows and what the fox knows, right? And so the fox is a completely different type of parent, and comes from a different perspective, and so of course he has different views and different ideas, and that becomes part of his strength later in the film. Is he's the things that are holding him back as a youngster are the things that ends up being his superpower when he's older.
Yeah,
and so
especially
I think
with the flying lessons.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's where we end up going, and I think what Brian was talking about in terms of like this struggle to figure out how to parent is definitely something I related to a lot, right? Me and Jen, like, we don't necessarily know. We have some ideas around like this seems good and we like this idea, but like in practice, it's like, well, like, where do you set those boundaries and how much do you help and how much do you not help? Like, I don't know that there's a right answer. You sort of go with your gut feeling a lot of times, and you sort of have some kind of plan before you start, and then if it still feels right while you're doing it, then you let it keep going. And if it doesn't, if something tells you like, hey, maybe actually this isn't the time for that type of parenting, then you change it up, and then you evaluate it later, and you're like, did that work? I don't know. Like, we were trying to have the goal of you being slightly independent, and now you're just really sassy, and like, is that part of being independent?
Oops.
Well, yeah, is that part of being independent, or is that part of you haven't learned how to like just communicate effectively and communicate respectfully, right? Yet, and do I want that to change? Because if I do, is that going to make you less sure of yourself and less independent? Like, I don't know the right answer to that, but I don't what my end goal is. I don't want you just doing something because someone else tells you to do it, right? Like, I want you to be able to say like, no, I think we should do it this way, and follow your instincts and your experience, and trust yourself, but then also being able to be humble about like, well, that didn't work, what can I do differently, right? And that's a tough line for adults to thread, any adult. And yeah, I don't know. So
welcome to the Confidently Wrong Parenting Pod. Let's talk about parenting styles.
Yeah.
Positive reinforcement. Your thoughts, Savon?
Extrinsic or intrinsic motivation?
Yes.
Yeah, all of the above. So it's, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot there that for parents to latch onto, and for kids, I think if you're a kid, you're just like, oh, this is like, how do parents show that they love me? How do I show that I can be who I want to be, right? And how does me not fitting in sometimes end up being actually something that's okay, right? Like, and still uniquely me, and I'm this like person that's worth valuing because I'm a person, not because like other people think I'm cool. So I like that they went with all of those things, and for a kids movie, I think that's like a lot of different themes and ideas they packed into there. Brian, was there any themes that kind of stuck out to you in the part that you did get to see?
The themes that stuck out were the genericness of the movie.
Oh, we are not doing this shit. We are not doing this.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
I want to hear it.
I mean that did stick out to me. But other themes, is like the nature. Nature is wild, right? And it's like I'm calling a foul on their treatment of death.
Foul.
FAWFOWL.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, I didn't love how they used death as sort of like this joke, and I just don't think those jokes landed for me. However, I will say that talking about the wild and what nature is like, and how everything is, everything, all these animals are just trying to eat each other. Animals die, shit happens kind of. And that is the environment in which they're placing Roz in. I thought seemed like an important theme that they were establishing throughout the film, of just about what makes something natural, and accepting that these things are part of nature's course. I don't know, seem like a thing that they were trying to hit on.
She's by nature a helper. She's someone who wants to make good. She wants to finish tasks. She wants to do a lot of things. She's
trying. She represents like the productive, hyper capitalistic almost version of our society, right?
Well,
it's
but
like you can tell that humans built this thing to serve and to maximize all of that as much as possible.
Oh, but that's
so
not what
she's got to
about.
learn. She's got to learn that nature is not like that.
Oh no, I disagree with that part of it. She's the and maybe this comes out more later. She's almost like too idealistic. She thinks like in her programming, and this is because of the hyper capitalistic issue, right? But her actual like frame of reference, and she's never been turned on. The first time she gets turned on is on this island, and so this is the first time she's expecting like, my job is to be a helper. I want to make everybody's lives better. I think we can do this. Like she's like a quote unquote like good person. She's basically just a Boy Scout looking for great like tasks, good things to do to help people, or whatever. And so finding out that actually people don't always act that way, that people act out of self-interest quite often, is like jarring for her. She's like, well, what? Like, how does that work? Like, how are you supposed to function in a world where people are always stepping on each other or eating each other or doing so? It's not that she represents like a change from that. She represents like, what is the like best, goodest like intentioned person, and how do they survive in a world that's like gritty and dark and actually more like punishing for being good, being kind.
Well, I want to point out that, remember, a key part of the movie, and I think, and Roz even says this in the movie, is we have to become more than what our programming or what our original nature is. We have to be bigger than that, right? Because that's the whole point of the truce and surviving out the snowstorm. I don't know. I like the idea of it's circle of life. Death isn't something that they just gloss over. It's a natural thing, but it doesn't have to always be that way. And kindness is still a virtue. But Brian, I don't know if you got to this part in the movie, but a key plot point was that Roz is rewriting her own code and programming. Did you get to that part?
Nope.
So we learned in the movie that she has been rewriting her own code and actually reprogramming herself. And that's part of how she kind of gains that sentience, because of the experiences she has on the island, realizing, oh, the way I am now is not equipped to do this task. And because, and this kind of does lean into the whole capitalist or hyper-productive, oh, the job has to get done, but it actually leads to a transformation for the character of, it's not them running themselves into the ground in like a work yourself to death way. It's I need to approach things from a more empathetic way that my previous programming didn't serve, because being a robot to just complete tasks is different than being a robot and raising something. But
that's more what I was getting at. Right?
Yeah, I like
nature is going to change.
Yeah,
right.
They really lean into that in the second half of the movie, I think, of being bigger or being more than what you might have intended or what you would have been at first. So the same way Bright Bill has to kind of be more than just like what the Gosling was. The animals have to be bigger than just their animal instincts, all of that. Like that was a part that really drove home me liking the character Roz. Because at first, her being a robot, I just wasn't super interested. I'm like, it's a robot, I can't really connect. Once you learn that they've been reprogramming themselves for sentience, and that partially explains why they become so much more motherly later in the movie, that was something I really enjoyed. Also, I want to spin the block super quick on that thing I was saying before about kindness. Something else I want to point out in the movie, because again, I really like this idea of kindness being something that you just do just because for the net benefit of the group. But I just want to point out multiple instances in the movie of characters doing nice shit for each other for nothing in return. The beaver, who gets made fun of by everybody out of just respect, builds that new foot for Roz after her thing gets messed up. When Bright Bill is trying to learn to fly and it's like, yo, man, this just is not working. She literally gets a tutor and gets the Hawk, who has no reason to help, but is just like helping out. It's just like, all right, yeah, you trying to learn to fly? All right, bet. I'll help you. The bears, I like that there was just a string of characters. Oh, the biggest one, what was his name? Was it Long Bill? Wes, help me out. The older goose.
I thought it was Long Neck.
Long Neck, thank you. Long Neck, but there was like an elder goose who was kind of like leading the migration, and his whole thing is that he's just really chill to Roz and Bright Bill for no reason but being chill. There isn't an ulterior motive. There isn't I saw y'all do this thing and that changed my mind. It's literally just, hey man, you don't gotta be a dick. You can just be nice to people. And I don't know, I really enjoyed that with the movie. I like when characters are just nice for nice's sake, and that being a virtue and something that we all net benefit from, which in the movie, it does. Them collaborating and doing random nice shit allows for the ending to flourish the way it does. But I'm thinking a lot about your point, Brian, of like, this movie did maybe, if there's one flaw, I think it is that they were straddling the line of who the immediate audience is. I think it might have been a little bit tricky. Because, again, the narrative is about a parent, which I think that naturally appeals to adults. But it's very much a movie for kids. But it's not a kids movie the way SpongeBob is a kids movie where adults are not factored in at all. And so it's like because, yeah, you still got the talking animals, but then it's about death and nature and survival of the fittest. And like, the big theme is that the main character should have never even made it this far because he was a runt. And I'm like, that's kind of heavy for a kid's movie. But like, it is a kid's movie.
But kind of typical for a kid's movie if you think about it.
Yeah, but
right?
then again,
like the litter, that's a storybook trope.
Yeah, but they didn't. Yeah, but they were very, very direct in telling Bright Bill, Longneck, the older goose, and I think you missed this part, Brian. You didn't see it, but he straight up tells Bright Bill, "Hey, man," because he's getting ready for the migration. Like, "Hey, Roz, your mama, I know y'all beefing right now. She gave you this gift." He's like, "I know." It's like, "Nah, B, you don't. You were look how small." He straight up says it. You are the smallest out of everybody here. If things hadn't gone the way they did, you wouldn't even made it this far. And like they don't even like hint it. They say that directly a couple of times. I'm like, geez, I'm digging this as an adult, but like it felt like the aesthetic of the movie was more for kids, but the actual writing and character interactions were more for adults. And I'm not a kid, but I'm curious to see how kids connected with and enjoyed this movie. I think that's my real question. I'm curious what the youngins think.
Can we get some youngins up in here?
Yeah, what are youngins at? Like, I'm curious, like, what the kid, like, Wes.
You'll have to ask your niece and nephew what they think about it.
My niece is all grown. Oh, yeah, that's right. You got them. Yeah, you got the youngin ones. Yeah, like, that. I think that will actually give me a better feeling of how I feel about the larger movie, because I know how I feel about it as an adult, but it's not just for adults.
Well, this podcast is for adults, so fuck them.
Yeah,
kids.
but because we got parents on this pod, and they might decide, hey, this is something to watch with your kids. We told people watch Inside Out with your kids.
Yeah,
Inside Out too. Right? So this is I don't know. I mean, I do like the bluntness of Circle of Life, but I don't know if the themes of the movie are something kids will actually enjoy or relate to, because they don't understand the challenges of parenthood and trying to raise an MF.
Watching this movie, though, like, admittedly, I didn't watch the whole thing. It felt like this was a movie that I should put kids, sit them in front of, and then leave the room. That's how I felt.
I don't think so. I think maybe the second half brings it back a little bit together, but
that's a long time to get to the second half.
Yeah, I could see that. I do think you're right. Like, it could have been a different movie had the animals not talked. Right, it would have been
it's like some real art house shit.
Yeah,
it was just no dialogue.
I think the trailer led me astray. It did me dirty because the trailer they did not have animals in dialogue in the first trailer that I saw for this.
Yeah.
So it made it seem like, oh, the robot is gonna learn. The silent robot is gonna learn with the silent animals.
Yeah,
about life. And that
you thought it was gonna be a body language story.
That was not this movie. Yeah.
No, that would have been cool though, right? That's what I was telling you guys at the beginning. Like, I thought that's kind of maybe the type of movie that we're
see. The trailer I saw already had talking, because it had the talking possum in the trailer. So the one thing I knew going in is that the animals will be talking.
Okay.
Like that was probably one of the few things I definitively knew. But
I didn't
thinking
know
about the poster and what I know now, I see where y'all are coming from. Of like, oh, I saw a trailer. So I was like,
me up.
yeah, because I was just like, why are they confused about the animals talking? It was in like. I saw a trailer, like there was no confusion about this, but y'all might have just saw one that didn't, and that explains it perfectly. Of like,
I wasn't confused. I was just like, oh, this is different than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I was confused about why y'all thought it would be different because in my mind, the trailer gave no hint that it would be that kind of movie. But if we saw different trailers and I saw one that definitively had talking animals and y'all didn't, that would 100% impact what I think I'm walking into. So like,
very misleading and disappointing for it.
I feel you on that. Y'all should have saw the trailer I did because I went in knowing the animals were gonna talk, and I was in that bitch immediately laughing.
If I saw that other trailer, I would have been like, "We're not talking about this on the podcast."
See, for me, the art style alone made me want to watch it because it was
really
like that same.
It
was the same DreamWorks studio who did some of the people who worked on Puss in Boots, and you can see that same painted, stylistic art style. Like I love that. I love the design of Roz and how she like the character design was so dynamic, and she can do all these cool things, mimicking animals and having a tool for every occasion. Like. I know we haven't talked about some of the production quality stuff, but this was a beautifully produced, put together movie. Like,
agreed.
The visual eye candy, some of the world storytelling. Wes, I don't know if you caught this, but there are moments where you don't really know what the status of the world is like, but there's little hints to piece together. Like when they go to the facility, you see blue whales swimming over a flooded Golden Gate Bridge. In the theater, I'm like, is that Golden Gate Bridge flooded?
Yeah.
But it's not a post-apocalyptic world because the tech they have isn't even like dystopian tech. Like a lot of it looks like clean energy. Even Roz, like it's not like she's some iron giant like bad bot. Like like she's very clean and solar powered and environmentally friendly and all this stuff. So some of that visual storytelling of the world that was like I enjoyed that. And now that I know that it's a book series and there's more, I want more. Like there's 2 more books that build off this story. And I'm like, hey man, I'm not sure tonally where it goes or if it starts to get more serious later, but I would 100% watch more of this because visually, I just had a good time watching the movie. Roz's expressions, like when you can make a robot expressive and you really can, at least for me, relate to what they're doing, that's hard to do. But Lupita, how do you say her last name?
I think it's Nyong'o.
But like her, I didn't even know it was her, but that voice acting was great. The way Roz's eyes are always, they're the cameras, but they're always opening, closing, shuddering. Like the cameras low-key are more expressive than a person's actual face. But that's props to like the animation team and the people who just put together this movie. This was in my opinion, a well put together movie. I think the animal designs and the parts on the island might have been a little bit more boring, but the techie stuff and that stuff they showed, visual treat, and the design team, I want to shout them out.
Agreed. And I thought
if Roz was poor design, really would have been worse. That was Pedro Pascal, dude.
Yeah.
No,
you could once you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely Pedro Pascal. But
I didn't know it was him until I didn't know any of the voice actors until only one I recognized was Ving Rhames.
Yeah,
I recognized Ving. I was just like, is that Ving Rhames? Like that's Ving Rhames. Like yeah, I've seen Baby Boy a few times. Like yeah, that's
These
Ving
are your
Rhames.
Knives, or what did he say? Something like that. Your wings are your knives.
Yeah, he was hard. Anyways, that's my thing. I had a good time watching this movie.
I want Ving Rhames to be my mentor for sure. Well, would you rewatch it? Because I don't know that I would rewatch it. I feel like I got all the themes I needed the first time. I'm not sure I'm gonna like necessarily be like, I want to go back and see these details.
If I had young nieces and nephews, I would watch this again.
But not for necessarily for yourself. You're not like rewatching it.
No, but but to your point, not everything needs to be a hard rewatch. This doesn't feel like a movie that's built more on the foreshadowing and picking up breadcrumbs. Like this was a fun movie. I saw it in theaters. It was a good time. I'd maybe watch it again a few years from now if it just happens to be on. If there's a sequel, I'll definitely watch it. But that's okay, especially for, in my eyes, I'm a unmarried man with no kids. Like, I don't think I'm quite in the target audience. So the fact that I went, saw it once, and enjoyed myself, like, hey man, that's a win. Let's take that and run with it.
Win. All right.
What kids movies would you rewatch?
Good question.
Most of the kids movies I would rewatch are kids movies from my own childhood, mostly because it's like a nostalgia trip. But a lot of like good kids movies now, I'm not going to rewatch. Not because they're not good, but because I'm rewatching the old stuff partially because of just nostalgia and the associated memories of just being a kid. So I'll rewatch those, but or the ones that had good writing. But I'm not just going out of my way to rewatch all my childhood or just any stuff that's targeted towards youngins. There's just too much other stuff that, frankly, better warrants a rewatch.
Have you guys ever seen? I think it's called like Meet the Robinsons or the Robins.
Oh
yeah. That shit looked awful.
I you didn't like it? I haven't seen that in a few years, but that's a movie I would go back and rewatch. I think that had some really like funny like adult funny things and some like ridiculous like juvenile humor things that I enjoy. The joke with the T-Rex and the T-Rex arms just like got me every single time. So like I would go back and watch that kind of movie. Let's see. I would watch WALL-E again or like rewatch WALL-E several times. I would watch Monsters Inc. over and over again. Not necessarily just because of nostalgia. I really enjoy those movies. I'm trying to think of any other.
Yeah, and you saw those as an adult, so
yeah.
I mean, and that is a distinction. I think some of the kids, and some of the DreamWorks Pixar movies, like there's definitely like a sliding scale of some are written like The Incredibles was very much written by some grown folks. Like half the themes of that movie is Bob and Helen going through midlife crisis stuff. Like there's a whole scene of Helen literally looking in the mirror, having the middle age. Dang, I done put on weight. That was not for kids.
Wait, didn't Invincible Man do that too?
Didn't who?
Is his name Invincible Man? I don't know. Whatever. The main guy,
Mr. Incredible.
Mr. Incredible. He does the same thing.
Of the movie The Incredibles. How do you not remember this man's name?
He's trying to fit into his old suit and
same deal.
Yeah.
A whole theme in the movie is him literally putting in his old suit, being fat in it, and then getting in shape.
And he's jonesing for.
And having an affair.
His wife thinks he's cheating on him because he's out here doing secret superhero stuff.
He's jonesing for that adrenaline high of when he was young.
Yeah. Point is, some of these
all?
but some of these Disney Pixar, like, there's a clear distinction between some of this is meant for kids to enjoy. Some of this is like, hey man, we wrote this. Incredibles was both the Incredibles series.
So you agree that the Wild Robot is not that? This is my point.
I think the Wild Robot straddles the line more than some other movies that I think were a little bit more one or the other. Like,
agreed.
I still will like definitively say the narrative of Wild Robot is geared towards adults and parents. A lot of the character interactions and the vibe of the movie maybe more so towards kids. How much those two things balance out, I think is just up for debate, and I don't feel comfortable making a definitive call without, frankly, hearing what some kids got to say, because that's just a key factor. But some of the others, like Incredibles and Incredibles 2, man, those are animated movies that's like written for and by adults. Kids are just there for the action and shit.
Clearly, because
kids like it.
Adults love superhero movies.
But I feel like kids like Incredibles too. I don't think that's one where they didn't like. Whereas like Elemental, we really enjoyed as adults, but we were talking about like kids are not going to enjoy that movie.
Yeah, dude, we could do a whole pod, frankly, on Disney Pixar movies and like how much they lean into the for adults, for kids, by adults, by kids. Like it varies so much that could be its own pod, because some of those I'm like, yo, kids are not meant to watch this. Others I'm like, yo, the adults are not meant to watch. Like to your point, Elemental, yeah, that's more of like a adult immigrant story. Kids not trying to watch that.
Yeah. Finding Nemo, that might straddle the line between adult and kids pretty well.
100%.
Also about parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but Finding Nemo, I think I think that one straddled that line a lot better.
Yeah, it's probably more balanced. All right.
But, yeah.
If you were plunked on an island in the middle of nowhere, no access to your home base, which animal?
No homing signal.
No homing signal. No, yeah, whatever it was called. Which animal would you end up raising, or would you like to have raised? If you had an orphan little tiny puplet, what are you going with, Brian? What animal are you raising?
Oh, you're starting with me?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I need to think about this a little bit more. Am I murdering that youngling's family?
No, you're just coming across it.
I don't think so.
I just like stepped on
a snail.
Its brothers and sisters.
If you did, it's an accident.
Yeah.
A snail would be really interesting. I don't think snails have like familial bonds. I don't think they
probably
would,
not
look at me and confuse me as a parent. It'd probably be it'd have to be a mammal, I'm
Okay.
sure.
Okay. It could be a bird.
Yeah, I guess the gosling was a bird. But I think it would probably be an animal that is more family oriented. So, like the easy answer would be like a wolf or something, right? Like a little cub is like coming looking for you. But, in all honesty, like maybe it's a pig. It's probably a pig.
That's such a chill answer.
I'm like looking at the pig with desire, of course. And the pig is
You're like, you would make
me.
some great bacon.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I've loved you my whole life. Now you are mine. And the pigs are actually one of the smarter mammals out there, right? So I think naturally, game gonna recognize game here, and we'll be like, oh,
Did you just call yourself one of the smarter animals?
We have things to talk about. Yes,
yeah.
we're gonna start debating Ingmar Bergman movies. So yeah, I have seen people with pet pigs, right? Like there's actually this place in Manhattan, an area in Manhattan where there's somebody who has been known to walk their pet pig.
Oh yeah, people do that all the time.
This square block. And I have seen said pig, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. But this would be less of a owner pet relationship and more of a father son thing. I think. Where I'm raising that pig to be well versed in culture here.
Right. You guys are going to the Met. You're going to the
absolutely
Knicks games.
This pig is going to be creating art. Absolutely. With its coiled tail as a paintbrush.
You're going to the Tribeca Film Festival. You're doing it all.
Yes. And no one's going to bat an eye because, like, who doesn't love a pig?
Yeah. You can tell them to shut the hell up if they have a problem with it. Like, that's my kid, bro.
Yeah, and then when it dies, we're going to feast.
Hey.
Whole team eating.
All right, Sav. What kind of animal are you raising?
Bear.
A bear? Oh
bear.
My God.
Wow, that was quick.
Catch them as a bear cub. They're a youngin'. You raise them. You take them under your wing. You've seen the videos and stuff where like lots of tigers and large predators, if they're raised around just like dogs or chill people, they're just like, all right, cool. We're vibing. You're just part of the fam. I've seen videos of like a Labrador that was the like wet nurse for like some abandoned tiger cubs. Then the tigers all grow grown, and it's just 5 fully grown tigers laying up next to a golden retriever who's just like, yeah, these my babies. I want that vibe. So let me catch the bear cub, catch them young. Bears are omnivores, so they can eat whatever. So granted, they're gonna need a lot of food, but they can eat more or less whatever. Once they're able to sustain themselves, the whole team, we're gonna be a dynamic duo. And like I said, we bears are versatile. They eat carrion, they eat fruits, insects, fish, meat, whatever they can get their hands on. So like that alone, hey baby, all we got is berries today. We're gonna have to make it work. Hey, look, we eating fish tonight. What's up with it? But they're not picky eaters. They're strong. I could help them as a baby. They could protect me as an adult. We'll be out here cooking.
It's a very functional answer.
We'll run the island.
Are you gonna ride said bear?
Yes. Please say yes.
I mean, if we get there, yeah, sure, why not?
Yes.
We get to that point. I mean, I'm not saying that's something that has to happen, but if my bear and we had that kind of bond, and they're like, yo, ride me into battle, I'm like, all right, let's effing get it.
I think you're definitely the only one on our panel here that could raise a bear, mostly because of your height, right? Like they'll kind of be eye to eye with you.
Well, that's the point of catching them while they're young. Like that's why the thing with the dogs and the tigers, if you catch them while they're young, it doesn't matter if you're physically bigger, you're emotionally bigger. They know you. You got power. You got that, they don't know nothing else but you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm big dog. I ain't gotta be big dog physically. I just gotta be big dog emotionally. Psychologically.
But you are big dog physically too.
Yeah, but that's just, but if it's a bear, the bear's gonna outsize me.
Your kneecaps are pressed up against the steering wheel.
Look, if it's a bear, shut up. If it's a bear,
so it's chest.
If it's a bear, height is not gonna be the needle mover.
I can't believe you drive that way. Oh my God. How do you do this? You're like hunched up like a little grandma, and you're 6'3", so it's just like comical.
I ain't gotta take this shit.
How are you? But how do you do that?
You're
Like,
the clown in the clown car.
How did you develop this style? Like, where did you go? Like, this is comfortable. Like, who told you that was the move?
When I started learning how to drive,
Yeah.
I would get in the car, and then when you get in the car, you adjust the seat as you feel comfortable.
That's how you did it?
Adjusted it, and I was like, oh, yeah, I like this.
No, Savon wants to be held. That's
no one in your life was like, Savon, back up a little bit. Like, you'll be a better driver.
So I told you about the time a dude rear-ended me on the interstate. It was like a hit and run. He rear-ended me. I was with my mom when she was in town in like June or something like that. And we pulled over, and we're waiting for like the highway, for the police to come by to do a report and all that, and get the exchange insurance, all that crap, right? And while we're there, he's talking to the first guy who hit my car. He's talking to them, a little bit up on the side of the interstate. And then the cop comes to my car. Just when me and my mom are sitting in the car. And he says, were you the one driving the car? And I'm in the driver's seat. I'm like, yes. Because he doesn't even say that. He just looks at my legs like.
He was like, y'all switched.
The cop thought that like my mom was the one driving when the accident happened, and that we must have swapped seats or something.
I mean, yeah, your seat is all the way up.
The cop was like, "How do you drive like that?" The cop said, "How do you drive like that? You drive like that?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. Can you take our information, please, officer? You grilling me about the wrong shit."
But yeah, it boggles my mind that you drive so close to the steering wheel. Like, I don't know how
you don't have airbags, and so you're pressed up against the wheel so much to make sure you won't fly out the window if you crash.
Like, that is his second seatbelt.
Yeah.
I do not have to take.
But you have airbags. If it goes off, you're going to die. It's just gonna be bullet to your chest. It's not even gonna inflate. It's just gonna be a shrapnel coming at you. You're going to get hit by the steering wheel itself as it explodes.
So be it. And if that's how I go out, you know what I'm saying? Look, toss my PC in the Detroit River, give away my PS5, and, we'll go from there.
Oh, my goodness. All right. That was a sidetrack. Okay, so basketball is my favorite sport.
Yeah.
And so, and it doesn't...
Is he going to talk about the Lakers again, Brian?
It doesn't right now look like Kaya is going for the athletic route. I don't know. I don't think she's got a ton of youth sports in her future. We'll put her in some youth sports, but I am skeptical.
At least you know that early.
Yeah.
Right? You could skip kind of like the awkward years where you're trying to determine.
No, we'll see. I mean, we'll put her in it. Maybe she'll take to it, like sometimes kids surprise you, but the early signs aren't good, let's say. So if I had a kid that I had to adopt out in nature.
Yeah, I was about to say, you have to.
Yeah. If I had a kid that I had to adopt, in nature, that was an animal that, like I'd want a nod towards some athleticism, some maybe basketball prowess. And, at first I was thinking, well, I'd want like a bald eagle, right? Like slam dunks, all that stuff. But like wings are not so good for grabbing things. And so I was like, no, that's not the plan. Oh, wait, I saw a bald eagle in Austin for the first time, maybe like 2 weeks ago. Shit was cool. It was just like flying straight overhead. I was on my bike. That's a side thing. I've never seen one in the wild before. I think I've seen one like at a zoo.
Oh, really?
I've never seen one in the wild. They're big too.
Yeah, I've seen them we have them in New Orleans.
That dude did not flap his wings at all. Just straight across, like overhead, about 100 feet in the air. No flapping of wings. Just gliding like a fucking amazing.
Like an eagle.
Yeah, crazy.
Probably tracking you, Wes.
It wasn't tracking me,
like
but
a snack.
Yeah, I mean, I do
go after you like your dog or your kids.
But that was cool. Not life changing or anything, but it was very cool to see a bald eagle in person. Anyways, so no eagles because they wouldn't be able to handle the ball. They would have Kwame Brown stone hands. They would just drop the ball all the time. So we got to go with the otters. I would want to raise an otter because they're nimble, they're dexterous, they're definitely going to have handles. That would be I would coach that otter up to be a little Bronny James growing up, just top of their game.
Bronny James. Bronny James is who you picked?
Well, when he was little.
Bronny James is not getting off the bench, Bronny James?
Yeah, that Bronny James. But when he was little, he was probably one of the best players out there. So
I do think an otter's a good pick for basketball.
Yeah. Point guard, right? Not center.
Better analogy. He would be somebody moving around really, really quick and sly like.
Yeah. Like Kyrie Irving style kind of player.
A little bit. I was also thinking like Steph
Fox
off ball.
Fox.
Yeah.
Like running around.
Yeah. So that's what I would pick. I'm going with the otter. I don't know what our viewers would pick. I feel like they'd go for like the more like predatory animals. You know, they want the tigers or the like a bear.
It wouldn't be deer and fox. It'd be deer and otter, right? Sorry, that took me a second.
Yeah, or maybe the fox. The fox needed a friend. The fox was lonely. He
was a jerk. That's his whole thing. Like,
but that's why it was like a catch-22, right? Like he was kind of a jerk, but he was also kind of a loner, and he was a loner because he was kind of a jerk, and
I think that's how foxes are.
He felt hard done by.
Solo, right?
I don't know. Probably. I don't know much about.
I don't know how social they are with one another. I'm not sure.
I just know, what does the fox say? All right, friends.
Yep.
I was hoping we wouldn't, but here we are.
The Wild Robots. We have mixed bag. Brian, not a fan. Me and Savon, bigger fans.
Not super fans.
No, I don't think this is like a top tier, like on my list of like Mount Rushmore movies, but I certainly enjoyed it, and I think it's worth watching. I think most people would enjoy watching it. I don't think you're going to be disappointed watching this movie unless you think it's going to be art house, just like completely on a different level. And it's not that. It's not trying to be that. So I don't think you should judge it by that, is what I was telling Sav before we started this. Is like, oh yeah, like I thought it was going to be this thing, and so I was a little bit thrown off a little bit, but I ended up liking where it went and what it did and what it was trying to do. And so I think it's fair to judge it on that and not on what you thought it was going to be, which is fair. I mean, that's also fair. All right, friends.
The movie did not encourage me to watch its second half.
I don't know. I like to judge fish by their ability to fly.
I mean, but sometimes fish is not your preference, regardless of whatever. So I'm with Brian. I'm okay with that he didn't enjoy it. Like it's not for everybody, but I think it's pretty universal. I think most people will enjoy this movie, so I recommend it. Sav, you agree? Most people are going to enjoy this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. It's an enjoyable movie.
Yeah. All right, friends. Well, The Wild Robot. Go check it out when it goes on streaming. Don't pay the $25 rental like we did. That's foolish. Why do we do that?
Also another indicator of where these guys actually think this is.